Hey y'all, this is Rich, and today I'd like to welcome a friend and a great realtor that I work with, Adrianne Osorio with Camelot Realty. And I've known you for probably like 3 or 4 years now.
I think it's at three, a little over three
now.
A
little over 3 years. And one of the things I really like is that you're very focused on the results that your clients are getting, whether you're listing or whether you're helping a buyer. And it doesn't matter if it's somebody who's getting $800,000 home or a $200,000 or $100,000 home. You're really focused on what the client is getting. In fact, I'm going to want you to share about the gentleman that we helped late last year, and just, kind of tell his story as sort of a way to tell people a little bit more about who you are and about your heart.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. I'm Adrianne Osorio. As Rich said, I'm an agent with Camelot Realty. I love what I do. I love my clients. I love meeting new people. And I've had great working relationship with Rich along the way. So I'm happy to have met you. You've helped a ton of my clients. And I just love the faith I have in you that I can give that over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Would you share, we've had some experiences with some great people, some really unique experiences as well. There was a gentleman who...
Which one is this one? We've had a few.
a gentleman who moved from his home country here not long ago.
Ah, yes.
And I'd like you to share a little bit about him, his backstory, how you met him, and what we were able to do for him.
So I met him through... He was actually... Was he a Zillow lead? He was a referral that was given to me. I can't remember if he came through Zillow or if he came through somebody else through that. I can't exactly remember, but I was connected with him, showed him a couple apartment units or condo units. He found a few, but he did not think that getting a property was going to happen for him. He absolutely believed it wasn't. He came here with the American dream. He wanted to create wealth. He wanted to get a job. He wants to bring his wife and his child over, and they're still in his home country. And he really just never thought he'd find a place. We found a place that was perfect for him. Nobody else was really willing to work with him. Rich did a phenomenal job and made this happen. And I think the tears of joy that he cried were insane. I mean, he's told me a lot about his experiences with religion and his home country, and then how he's come here and it's changed his point of view on a lot of things. But he's absolutely so grateful for every opportunity he has here. He was living in the back of a place that he was working. They were letting him stay there until he had a home. He really had just a tiny little space. Ubers everywhere. I picked him up a few times to get him to showings. I'd take him back home to save him some money because he needed to save every penny that he had in order to pay those closing costs that he had. So now he's in a home. And honestly, last I talked with him, the wife was not here yet, so I have to find that out.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned that I thought was so special, and you going the extra mile, is you picking him up from the store where he worked at, where he slept in the back of, and driving him to a showing when other people, driving him to a showing for what, for many of the people that you help, is a small transaction.
Yeah.
But for him, it was the world.
Right.
And you gave him so much care and attention. You were watching out for him like a big mama bear. And I thought that was, it's so amazing, and it speaks to who you are.
Thank you.
Because so often you don't see people attach the care unless they see the big dollar signs.
True.
And you attach the care to the human, not to the transaction.
Right.
And I love that about how you conduct your business.
Right. Thank you. I think there's a lot to be said for getting to know the person. That's probably one of my favorite parts about what I do, is getting to know the individual. That's how you can learn what they like, learn where they work, where do they need to live. And I think too many people don't take the time to get to know the individual or what's important to them. And as you learn more and more, I think, you earn their respect, but then it doesn't matter that it was just over 100,000, or like you said, if it was 400,000, that doesn't matter anymore. Everybody needs the same thing regardless of what they can spend.
You're correct. And getting to know the individual leads me to my next question.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say that you're an individual out there, You are not a great real estate agent. You're just an individual and you wanted to buy a house. How do you find a great realtor? What are the things that you're looking for? What are you going to ask? Where are you going to research to find somebody good?
I mean, first and foremost, I think everybody is going to Google realtors in Houston or whatever area that is that you're looking, and then names pop up. Every page, every website, every listing is going to say the same thing about the agent. They're going to tell you about how great they are, and that doesn't always mean that that's the truth. So if it's me, I'm going to talk to people. I don't expect anybody is going to choose me the second they speak to me over the phone. I would want to meet them in person. I want to see how they interact with me personally. Are they warm and inviting? Do they care about my needs, or do they just want to show me a bunch of homes they already think are going to work for me? That kind of thing, which is how I usually try to go about learning exactly what it is that they're looking for.
What sort of questions would you ask a real estate agent?
Obviously, do you know this area well? Is this an area that you work in routinely? How long have you been in the business? I don't really want to ask how many properties they close or what they're earning. I don't think that's it. I think just knowing how long they've been in the business and how well they know a particular area is going to make all the difference. That would be my primary goals. I don't think just because someone sells mostly $800,000 houses makes them better, or just because they sell $100,000 houses makes them worse. To me, that doesn't make a difference.
Okay. Why did you get into real estate? I mean, out of all the careers, and I know that you've got a great diverse background of experience, of all careers, why real estate?
A couple reasons. So at the time that I got into real estate, my son was much younger than he is now. And my husband and I have a small portfolio of rental properties. So that was just kind of long-term investments for long-term wealth. We enjoy what we do. I do like real estate. And because of that, it kind of became, well, hey, I can list our own properties. Why do we keep paying somebody to manage our properties and list our properties every time we have a tenant leave? So I got it for that. And then I truly enjoy it. The more I work in it, the more people I meet. I like meeting people from all walks of life. I love walking into all these different homes and seeing different areas and seeing what the new trends are. I really enjoy what I do. And then the cherry on top is kind of the flexibility it offers me for my family. I can control my income. I can make as much as I need to in a year based on how much I work. I can make as little as I want. If I don't want to spend time working, I kind of have control over that and the flexibility to be with my family, be available for the important moments in my son's life, travel with my family, make memories, be available to anybody or anywhere that I need to be. Awesome.
Now, aside from real estate, you are a full-time mom. You volunteer with USA Swimming. What are the things you do? What are your hobbies? How do you relax? How do you wind down?
I don't know if I relax until bedtime when I go to sleep. I don't know if I know the meaning of that word so much, but hobbies, I've been a swimmer since I was young. I still try to do that for some exercise. I absolutely love going to the gym. That's also been something I've done since I was early teens, so I enjoy the gym. So to truly unwind, we like to go to the beach. If we can't take a vacation, we head down to Surfside Beach and take a day and just kind of shut down for the day. That's really what I enjoy doing. If I need some peace and quiet on a normal day, I like to just go outside, go for a walk, and kind of calm down. But that's what I like to do.
Awesome.
My son doesn't hang out with me as much anymore because he's busy and he's a teenager and he's got so much going on.
But I've seen him with you a few times.
No, we do still spend time together, but as he gets older, a little less time.
And he's so respectful too. My gosh,
Yeah,
you and your husband did a great job, instilling really good values with him.
Thank you. He's a good kid.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, over the last couple of years, there has been a lot of media about price fixing and contracts and changes to contracts and changes to realtor compensation. And there was a huge brouhaha. And a lot of what came out of that was a new contract that Houston Association of Realtors put together.
New documents so much, not, yeah.
A new format.
Yeah, new formats, new processes to follow.
Absolutely. And I don't want to talk about, there has never been anything like normal compensation or customary compensation.
Right.
But what I'd like to ask you about is when you're a consumer and you're going to buy a home, what are the things that you want to look at first on the agreement to work with a real estate agent and then on the contract itself? So let's talk about the representation agreement first. Representation
agreement obviously talks about the duties that you will provide as an agent to the buyer that you're speaking with. I think right now, because everybody knows about all of the price fixing issues and there's a lot of questions, so I try to walk people through that, explain any sections so they know what it all means, and then of course discussing the compensation. First and foremost, they need to know that it is negotiable. There is no set number. There is no set fee. It's what can you pay? What are you willing to pay? And then, you kind of say, here's what I can provide. You explain your services at that point. So that's on the buyer agreement.
Okay. One of the things that was in the news a lot was that the buyers are going to have to pay the commission out of their own pocket because sellers are no longer paying. Have you seen that to be true?
No, I think we've all been reading, especially lately. In fact, I think I read an article about it yesterday, that not a whole lot has changed in that. There are a few. I've run across maybe one or two where the seller did not want to pay the compensation, and that's fine. The buyer was willing. I had another one where the seller was willing and the buyer just said, I'd rather get it for a lower price and pay you separately. Okay, because he didn't want as big of a loan. And, I think that's probably the only two times I've come across anything. But otherwise, I think the only difference is you see a lot of people, because you can't advertise it anywhere on the MLS or anything like that. So you see a lot of phone calls like, hey, is there compensation? Just so I can let my buyer know. But I haven't come across it. I think it looks like everybody's still making, I think the article I read even said right around that 2.4, 2.5% average from the seller side.
Which is what the average was before the lawsuit. So it seems like the only thing that changed was one plaintiff and a bunch of attorneys got a whole lot wealthier.
This is true. It's true. But I think now people feel a little bit better because they feel that they have some kind of say and some kind of control over the situation rather than just going in blind, maybe not actually covering the document. Maybe I'm sure that in the past a lot of people didn't cover the representation document.
Now, on the representation document, so let's say that I went out with a real estate agent and we looked at a house, and afterwards, I just didn't get great vibes from that real estate agent. Am I stuck with that agent for 6 months?
Absolutely not. You can cancel those at any time. In fact, I tell everybody that I work with that this is not a binding forever agreement. At any point that you are uncomfortable or you would like to move on with somebody else, you feel that somebody's a better fit, this can be canceled. Our agreement can be terminated any time. So I think that makes everybody a little more inclined to sign something when they know that, hey, I'm not locked in for the next 8 months, whether I like this person or not.
Yeah, that's really cool. Especially because I saw an article the other day, I can't remember the paper, about people signing 30-year listing agreements and 40-year listing agreements.
I have not heard anything about that.
It was pretty amazing. There was this company that was coming in and they're saying, hey, we're going to help you, with, potentially with your property taxes or whatever. And
is that even allowed?
No, well, that's the thing. There's a state's attorney general who's going against this because they're like, you can't have them sign a 30 or 40-year listing agreement to get help with their property taxes.
That's not even a job description for a real estate agent.
No. It's. I think it happened in South Carolina or North Carolina. But I was reading this. I was just completely dumbstruck that somebody would try to do this.
Yeah.
So the contract itself has changed as well. Can you talk a little bit about the changes to the contract? And more importantly, if I'm a buyer and I'm reviewing the standardized contract, what are the things that I'm looking at?
The contract itself hasn't really changed all that much. You still I mean, you're still filling out all the same information. There is a section at the end of it where you can talk about who's paying some of the commissions. But overall, it hasn't really changed too much. That's pretty straightforward. And as far as I'm concerned, everything has been with the representation form and that. So.
And then as far as being a buyer, what am I looking for in the contract that's going to protect me?
Okay.
And it's going to make sure that I am safe and my money is safe.
Okay, so with the contract, you complete when a buyer is getting a loan, you complete a third-party financing addendum. On the addendum, you're showing an interest rate that you can't go above. So if interest rates go higher than that, they're protected to that they're not going to get charged more money than what they were, the maximum they were supposed to. If for any reason the financing falls through, they're protected up to a certain day. They have to be approved by a certain time, or they can, if the financing falls through, it protects them to get out of the purchase of the home. The appraisal addendum, you've got that where you can protect the buyer in that if the home doesn't appraise for a certain dollar amount, they have the ability to terminate the contract and still get their earnest money back if it appraises below a certain point.
I mean, those I think are really important to protect your customers.
Absolutely, so that they don't get stuck in a transaction that either they cannot afford or that isn't worth what they're paying.
Yeah, one of the areas where financing addendum also can come in really handy is with condos. Because not all the condominium associations are what are called warrantable. So you can't necessarily get financing. Do you want to discuss challenges that you found when trying to help people find condos in Houston?
I think the main one, I've had you look up quite a few for me when I'm working with people that can't get qualified for anything other than an FHA loan. There's a number of condos in this area that absolutely do not allow FHA loans. So it really has limited people that are looking in a particular area specifically for a condo that they just couldn't find a property, and they had to kind of put their search on hold because they weren't willing to go elsewhere.
Yeah, and that is one of our big challenges here is that, I mean, condos are, although we have more condos that have been built, they're just not a preeminent form of housing in Houston.
Right. And I think that protects the buyer too, though, not being able to get what they're looking at because there's reasons they're not warrantable. So it makes a better decision, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are your thoughts on the market today? How is the market performing? Are you seeing bright spots? Are you seeing spots that are needing a little help?
Currently, I'm not seeing a whole lot of bright spots. I will say March was a fantastic month. I think there was a little bit of drops in the interest rate that kind of got people out there to purchase. And then April came, and when rates went back up, people were, I think the word I'm hearing across the board, and including people, I have a couple clients that are from Mexico, they're saying across the board out there even, uncertainty is the word. And with that, I think it's not just from people that can only afford below a certain amount or above a certain amount. It's uncertainty across the board. Nobody knows if rates are going to come down. Nobody knows what's happening. So I think everybody's just on hold right now. April was extremely slow. May hasn't proven to pick up all that much. So we'll see what the summer brings.
I think it's going to be interesting. What do you feel the impact of homeowners insurance and the change in homeowner insurance pricing has had on real estate sales?
I think it's had quite a bit. Once you get that homeowner's insurance added on along with your property taxes to your mortgage, those two things combined are often making these payments, these monthly mortgage payments, unmanageable for people. It sounds really good when you look at principal and interest, and then you add those other two numbers on, and sometimes it nearly doubles the payment. I think it makes it really tough. I myself, I can tell you just across my property and our rental properties, the addition in homeowners insurance for 1 year for 4 properties was an additional, I think, $6,000 or $7,000 for a year with just the additions of the 4 combined. So it's definitely not making anything easier for the buyer.
I mean, personally, we bought our home a few years back, less than 10 years. Our homeowners insurance went up over 500% in less than 10
That's
years.
crazy.
It's making things very unaffordable. That flood insurance, I think the state government's really helping with property taxes with that $100,000 exemption
Right.
for school tax. But insurance used to be like less than 10% of a payment. It seems to me that it's closer to about 25 or 30% these days.
I agree with you. I think it's becoming unmanageable and it's affecting everybody, including those who have never made a claim. Everybody's paying tons for everything that's gone on.
Absolutely. And one thing that you do, that one of the benefits that you have is that you represent a couple of builders. And these builders are building new communities in town. One benefit of them being in town one benefit of them being new builds is that they have lower insurance rates.
They do. For the first year, they definitely have a much lower insurance rate, especially because the home is still under the builder warranty. Everything's covered. They do still see a jump in that going into the second year, but just to have that comfort that you've got the first year covered, you are in a new home, so you're probably not going to be running into problems year over year, even in year 2, year 3, or at least not anything significant once it's a new build. I think that's very helpful.
Would you mind sharing with us a couple of the areas that you're representing the new builders, maybe the builders, and tell us about what you like about the homes that they're building and where they can see you?
I represent a builder out in Acres Homes. We've got a few communities out there. They're also building one on the north side that we're listing. What I do like about them is they're what they build an affordable luxury home. So they've got great finishes. They have very manageable prices. And they're within minutes of the Heights and downtown and Midtown. It's just easy access for a lot of people that may otherwise have to go way out, out of the city to find that kind of price point. I think they're in gated communities. They have features that, for instance, the one's got a few dog runs. Great for people with their pets. Some has a little walking path, so if you want to stay within your gates and walk around, you can do that. They all have a little bit of guest parking. Some of it's still street parking because you're in the city. But I think they build a great product, and they have 3 bedrooms. They're great for families.
Excellent.
And they're great starter homes for people that can't get into the higher price points.
Okay. And finally, most importantly, how do people get in touch with you so that you can represent them?
You can look me up online. You can look me up on Instagram, Adrianne Osorio, Texas Realtor. You can look me up on HAR. Phone number 713-204-1222.
Awesome. Thank you so much I know you're really, really busy. So thank you so much for taking the time to come in.
Thank you.
To talk with us. I hope this wasn't so painful.
It was not so painful.
Okay, good. Well, I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to sharing with people who you are so they get to know you better. And this will hopefully make them feel more comfortable in lifting up the phone to call you.
Awesome. Thank you.
To be their realtor.
Would love to. Would love the help. And I appreciate your inviting me here today. And it's been great talking with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.